Oh, hey everyone. So today we're going to talk about truckload pricing. We did just do a whiteboard on the mode of truckload and what type of service you can have done in truckload and equipment types. So if you haven't checked that out, you may want to do that first. But today we're going to talk about what you need to be thinking about now in terms of negotiating truckload pricing. So step one is the lanes, right? So have a good understanding of your full truckload lanes, not just where they're from and where they're going, but what are the volume in those lanes? So you may decide that today you ship in, 78 truckload lanes. And what do I mean by a lane? I mean, there's a shipment coming, you ship from Boston and you ship to Cincinnati, Ohio, and in a 12-month time, you're shipping 300 loads a year. So how many loads do you ship in your lanes? Identify all of them. And what you want to be thinking about here also is the seasonality of your lanes. So you may have 300 loads a month, let's say, but 200 of them ship in the final week of the month. Those are things you really need to understand as you're going out to truckload carriers and trying to get some pricing that's going to hold with this capacity. So identify all your lanes, right? And then identify the number of loads annually in those lanes. And if there's any seasonality around those lanes, you do want to be able to identify that when you put this information in front of your carriers. You also want to think about what would move spot versus contract. So I'm sure you hear that a lot. Is this moving under a contract rate or is this moving under a spot rate? This is why you need to understand your volumes, because what you'll find is if you have less than, let's say, 25 loads a year in a given lane, you probably want to work in the spot market with that. You're going to be hard pressed to find a carrier who wants to commit to the capacity for a full 12 months in handling that load when it's not high volume. The other thing you'll find is in a lane like this, if you then have a contract rate for these 300 loads a month, but there's the majority of them ship in the last week of the month, you may have to move some of them in the spot market because you don't have enough capacity in your contract rate. So again, really important to understand, and that will help you balance what should move in spot versus what should move in contract. And so what's spot? Spot is you're going out to the marketplace. Now you may just decide today I work with 15 carriers, I have contract rates in place with them, and when I have a shipment that I can't move at a contract rate, I'll put it out for spot, but I'll just put it out to the carriers that I currently work with under contract. Or you're going to put it out to the spot and you're going to put it out to a bunch of carriers, even carriers that currently aren't in your contract routing, to see if you can get some utilization, some capacity and price. So those are lanes. Next is distance. So in truckload, when you're negotiating that pricing, you're working off of mileage. And so what mileage are you working off of? So as an industry, there are different mileage programs that you can actually subscribe to. So we use PC Miler. It's a pretty well-known in our industry. Most of the truckload carriers have it, where we're telling them we use PC Miler. Now within PC Miler, there's a short route distance, kind of like a navigation in your car, or there's a practical route difference. And there's also areas of the country where in almost in every state where carriers, drivers and tractors and trailers can't travel, right? So there are roads that we can travel on in our car that a full truckload carrier cannot. So that's important to understand, and it's a lot to understand, and that's where having a mileage program will help you. So explore the mileage programs, and what then you want to do is make sure that you and the carrier agree that you're going to use this mileage in this lane anytime they're going to quote on business for you. The other part about distance becomes the time, right? So we all know there's the hours of service. They have to drive and rest and drive and rest. You want to understand that on your longer lengths of hauls. And you also want to understand that with your delivery requirements. And again, if you don't have a good handle on your supply chain and how your truckloads need to move, you're putting the risk on the carriers to figure it out for themselves. And when you do that, oftentimes you'll pay more in freight. And here's a good example of that. If you're traveling Let's just say you have a customer that you're going to travel, it's a 5-day transit time, right? So if you ship on a Monday, let's say, and it's a full 5 days of transit, by the time he gets there, the driver gets there on Friday, they may be too late to deliver, which means now that driver has to lay over and deliver on Monday because the customer's not open on Saturday and Sunday. So what's a layover? The driver can't go anywhere. He can't go get another load. It's Friday night. He has a full load of freight that he can't deliver until Monday. That driver is now sitting for the weekend. That's a layover. These carriers and drivers get paid to drive. So you have to stop them. They can't do anything. You're going to pay for that. That's called a layover. So again, let's say you've promised a customer to deliver in 5 days. You can actually, if you look at your supply chain and you look at your mileage, let's say you ship this on Thursday. And again, most companies work in business days and they're not running on the weekends. So if you ship this on Thursday, you now have Friday and Saturday as a plus 2 days, right? So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. You've now taken a transit and you're able to say to a customer, I can ship you on Thursday and deliver on Monday versus a Monday to a potential Friday, most likely the following Monday. So again, mileage plays a big part, not just in how you're going to negotiate the price, but also in how you're going to run your supply chain. So you may decide my longer length of hauls are going to ship on Wednesdays or Thursdays because from a business day perspective, I'm going to get a faster transit, allowing that carrier to have the weekend to drive. The other part is times, which we've already just covered somewhat here in the distance, where you do want to pay attention to the number of mileage versus the number of hours and the number of rests those drivers have to really help dictate what are the best pickup days based on your delivery options. Now, depending on the industry you're in, time matters as well in terms of you may run a business where your customers aren't dictating when you have to deliver that freight. And so it's really important to you that that freight gets out of the building at the shipper at certain times versus received into your customers. Or you're in a retail consumer product, food product, and the delivery time is crucial because if you don't make the delivery time, you're going to get charged back from your customer. So really, again, having an understanding of timing, it will absolutely help you gain the best capacity at the right price for your freight. The other part of it, again, is service. So we covered in the truckload mode, there's about 19 different types of equipment. So you're going to want to think about what kind of equipment do I need? If you need blankets or straps, that needs to be outlined in your bid package to your carriers because they need to make sure, one, they have the right equipment, and two, that they're going to price it accordingly. You know, refrigerated trailers are more expensive than dry vans. Then when you get into flatbed, it's even higher than a reefer or a dry, and it's really given in the market how much capacity is there. We talk about this a lot and why. Even if you're not in this industry, you hear all the time about driver shortages. There just aren't enough truckload drivers, there aren't enough drivers in all to handle all of the freight that we're picking up and delivering. And it's absolutely true. I think the average age right now of a long haul driver is 59 years old. Kids aren't coming out of college and aspiring to be truck drivers. And so it's really, really important that you understand as much of this as possible, because when you understand how your freight needs to move and the volumes you have, you can work strategically with your carriers so that they gain the right capacity with the right drivers to handle your freight. So that's kind of the high level wrap up of truckload pricing.